Hello and welcome back to the DFS Premier League show brought to you by VIP-bet.com. I'm your host Kevin DeVries. Joining me in that box below me is my good friend and partner in crime, Rob Langevin. For those that listen to our other shows, we mentioned it, but this will unfortunately be our last show, at least for a while here on VIP-bet.com. So kind of sweet sorrow that we're bringing you this episode, but we'll be sure to dive into all this fantasy content for you. We'll do a little eulogy at the end, I suppose. But Rob, we'll start off with the fact that this is a very big slate, but not a lot of big teams involved. Really just Tottenham and City, the heavy hitters, a whole lot of teams kind of in that mid-table range on this slate. Do you think this is more of the week to try to find bargain guys, or do you think we'll see a lot of people pricing people in like that 6 to 8K range?
No, I mean this is one of those games where I think you pick your big ass fighters in City. And then you piece it together with the guys you think are going to have admirable weeks or been playing above their heads, like the West Hams of the world, or if you want to take a shot at Crystal Palace playing against a managerless Swansea, that'd be the way to go. The Burnley Spurs game could go either way because people are believing in the Burnley uptick in play. I'm not a big believer this week. I think their defense is going to let them down. But every week is a new slate on DFS. That's the glory thing about it. You don't get married to it. You're just dating it, and not even long term. It's almost like it's like Bumble for fantasy.
DraftKings is the Tinder of fantasy Premier League. Decent shout there. I think it's going to be kind of a weird one. There are a couple matches that I just think could go a lot of weird ways. Like I said, we won't do too much foreplay. We'll just dive into it straight off. I think Brighton-Watford is arguably the biggest one of those, where I really think this match could go many, many different ways. And we've seen from Watford, they either pretty much show up or just do not, as we saw with last week's result. So for the player that I like out of this one, I'm going to say Pascal Gross at 7K, even though it's more expensive than I like. As I said, I don't really like this match. I think there's a lot of ways it goes. But in order to not waffle too much, I will stick with him. His price is a little high. As we've said all season, if Brighton do anything, Gross will be involved. And I do think there's a chance Brighton do something in this match. Watford have very much regressed defensively. Haven't kept a clean sheet in 5. Have conceded multiples in 3 of those 5. So even though you don't really love the Brighton attack, you do know that if something happens, Gross is probably involved, and Watford not really looking like they'll be able to stop anyone at the moment. Also, I know you and I aren't big fans of his, but Andre Gray is an interesting option. He'll either do something or he won't. Like, it's just a dart throw. But if he does something, he'll probably be in that 12 to 16 point range for the week. And at 4,800, I think that may be worth it to people that like gambling on him. My dislike is a bit of a holdover from last week. I'm just going to say Glenn Murray. Again, this match is going to be a weird one. Considering how red card and penalty happy Watford are, there's every chance Murray gets a shot at a penalty. Doesn't get him loads of points, but at least he might get that. I don't rate his chances from open play. I think this match will end up 2-2 or 3-2, but I think the goals are going to come from weird places. Maybe like a Decore kind of week, just where like weird stuff is going to happen in this one, and it may be better off looking for some of the weirder names and some of the higher priced ones.
Yeah, I like your analogy. Watford is either they storm in and take the village, or they wait in the village and it gets flooded. 3 straight games with a red card, 5 all year. Brighton's Glenn Murray's actually a decent shout, because if you're playing the percentage that Watford gets a penalty, he's probably gonna end up taking it. Pascal Gross is a decent shout because he's gonna basically be involved, like he's like the Brighton Robbie Brady, sort of, in all youngest one in curls. But Watford could do. Like you said, I think there's going to be goals in this game, but there's going to be huge differentials all across the board. I have one in my team when we get down to it, who I think could probably be part of that. But Andre Gray is going to play. Look out for a Stefano Okaka sighting.
He has the red out on him at the moment, but thinking he'll probably start. Or if not start, at least be on the bench.
He'll be on the bench. I think he's going to be on the bench. But in the future games, keep an eye out for Stefano Okaka. There's going to be goals in this game. I'll say 2-1 Watford.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be an interesting one. I know there are a lot of matches on the slate, but if you just want to see an interesting football match, that one is going to be a bit of a weird one. Rob, as you mentioned, probably the week to stack up on your City guys. I assume that's what you're doing against the Bournemouth defense. Is kind of struggling at the moment.
Yeah, you can't help but not want to stack with City. I know their prices are not conducive for getting probably more than 2, because with the rotation of guys, you probably don't want to punt down too low to like the Fernandinhos or the Fabian Delphs or guys on the the outside looking in for the offensive ability of City. It's been 11 weeks since City has scored less than 2 goals. Um, so there's that as well. My love this week, it starts and ends with KDB. You got to have a KDB if you want to play DraftKings with me. At 10,700, he's a stud. He's going to be all over Bournemouth. Bournemouth is just riddled with injuries up top. They're not going to have anything. I don't think they're going to have much of an offensive punch and anything to keep the ball away from City. If DraftKings monitored passes, Fernandinho would be the guy to roster this week because he does, sit back and basically steers the ship from inside their half and starts the play and build up. But unfortunately, they don't. So you're stuck with De Bruyne at 10,700. He's averaging over 20 points in his last 5 matches. You're getting with Kevin De Bruyne. He's an all-around player. He does crosses, he scores, he assists, he does interceptions, he does everything that you want. Wins fouls. He's basically one of the top 3 DFS players in Premier League, hands down, not even a question. My dislike for this match. Anybody wearing a Bournemouth jersey. Like I said, they have so much injury. There's no clean sheet or defensive pairing that you could possibly kind of be cheeky about. I don't think they score or they get an assist here. So if you're looking for a defender in this match, it's definitely from the City side, but they are a little pricey. This game's going to be City and a lot of City, and it's going to be a lot of City. They're going to get 3. How many more than that depends on how much they slow down and
how early they score.
Exactly, how much they coast from there on out. I don't think Bournemouth comes close to scoring, but so I'll say 3-0.
All right, this is interesting because City do struggle to keep clean sheets, but Bournemouth without Defoe, without King, definitely not an optimistic proposition. I say City win. I don't know if I say the clean sheet, but I do agree with you. I think they could win by 3 goals. City pretty much is all the way you want to go. I know this is something you brought up in past shows. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 City players in price before you get to the first Bournemouth player, which is Junior Stanislas, which is kind of crazy. Next up, we have Southampton versus Huddersfield. And Rob, I know I said I wasn't going to try to brag about it too much, but here we are. Last week, my dart throw was on Laurent de Poitre. This week is at 5K. Last week, obviously, goal and an assist. He was a darn good dart throw. You don't know that when you throw it, but now having seen where it went, I'm like, what a brilliant throw that was. Southampton probably won't be able to really prevent him from doing anything this week. They've kept just 1 clean sheet in the last 10 matches. I think this is a great weekend to do a big forward, small forward. So if you want to get an Aguero and somebody like De Poitre, if you want to take a gamble on Gray, stuff like that. If you're feeling the Rondon hype like 3 weeks late, since Pardew took over, and he has looked a lot better, but unfortunately still no tallies for him. I think this is a good week to do that, and I think De Poitre is just as good an option as any, again, citing the fact that Southampton really struggling to defend, and it looks like Bertrand and Cedric are both going to miss this one, which obviously hurts them on the wings. My dislike is also a player that plays out wide for Southampton. It's going to be Nathan Redmond at 6,200. I just hate him so much. His existence in FPL and reality makes my life more difficult and trying. He should be so good. Like, there is no reason he can't be at least Zaha, if not Sterling, like talent-wise. But he just fails to put everything together. He has only hit double digits once in the last 5 matches, and even with Huddersfield's weird defensive Mr. Jekyll, Dr. Hyde, did I do that backwards? I don't know.
Same difference.
Yeah, I just don't think Redmond's going to do anything of note. And the most disappointing ones are when he has a positive matchup and does nothing. And I've just been burned way too many times in quote-unquote good matchups to buy back in on Nathan Redmond. I think this is just a really drab, awful 1-1.
Yeah, this game is gonna be bad. I'll give you your props for Laurent de Poitre, which translates into of breasts if anybody is out there and interested. So basically, since Laurent is derived from a tree, so he's the tree of breasts.
Great.
Can't make that up. That's just what
That's
happens.
the kind of analysis you won't be able to get anymore.
Yeah,
but
absolutely, you couldn't even pay somebody else to do that. But yeah, Southampton's defense is riddled. This could be a good differential game if you're looking for like a Wesley Hoyt or a Jack Stevens on defense there. Huddersfield doesn't attack very well. They just have been doing it in dribs and drabs, and De Poitre hit last week. So this game's going to be boring. I think it's going to be a under 2 goals total for the game. So depending on how you want to see that, invest your money wisely in either team that you feel like.
Yeah. Next up is going to be another one that is not going to inspire much viewership. It's going to be West Brom versus Stoke. What used to be the Pulis Bowl, but now he's at neither club, although rumors that Pulis is interested in taking over Swansea or Stoke if Stoke let go of Mark Hughes, which I'm sure Stoke fans not particularly fans of. But anyway, with the players and managers that are actually at these clubs, what do you think we're going to see this week?
I sneakily like West Brom this week. I think it's more because I'm just sick of looking at Stoke and their ineffectiveness to be actually anything of a scoring, weapon.
Yep.
They had the tools there. It's like somebody bought them a new Craftsman tool set, and they have no thumbs to work with. But yeah, I kind of like West Brom this week, so I'm going to sneakily get their defense in there. I like Kieran Gibbs at 3,700. I like Johnny Evans even more at 3,200. Stoke has got 3 goals in their last 5, 1 in their last 3 home games. They're not going to pepper the goal enough, so if you want to invest in a low-income, West Brom defender, look at Evans, look at Gibbs. They both do a little bit of intrinsic things. West Brom does have 2 cleans, and Johnny Evans has an assist in his last 4. So there is that. So he's not a complete dumpster fire where you're just like, whatever, I'm picking Johnny Evans. Guy you don't like, Stoke defenders. Completely antithesis of what I just said, because I think West Brom score in this game. So it basically negates all the value, if there is any value, from any Stoke defender. Kurt Zouma is a question mark to even play. He's at 3,800. Eric Peters is just really, really bad at soccer. You have Kevin Vimmer at 3,000. Shawcross at 3,500. These are all gamble plays. They're not somebody you really want on your roster. If you're making more than one team and you want to throw a Stoke defender on there, thanks for donating your money to somebody else who's going to win it. Score-wise, it's going to be 1-0 Stoke. I mean West Brom. Sorry.
Yeah, West Brom I think are an interesting one. And you got to like Rondon in theory at 4,400. As I said, just eye test-wise, has been performing much better the past couple of weeks. Although kind of in that Hazard way, where he keeps playing in other people that are messing up. You kind of want him to just take the initiative at a certain point. Agree with you. I think West Brom win this one. I don't know how Stoke only keep it to 1, though, considering how they've been performing lately.
They suck.
They
suck out loud.
They're real bad. I think West Brom could go 2 on this one. Like that's some crazy revelation. 1, 2. Next up, we have Swansea versus Crystal Palace. My honestly surprised myself. It's going to be Andros Townsend at 7,200. Yep, Rob's over there losing his mind. This is way more money than I'd like to spend on Townsend, but there's no arguing that the crossing is there. Townsend sits top 5 in accurate crosses and has done for about the last 5 weeks. And Kabay is also an interesting option if you're interested in those guys that are crossing those balls. Obviously, Benteke makes it less likely that those crosses end up in goals. I assume that since Connor Wickham still doesn't exist, that Zaha is probably going to play as that pseudo 9 that he did while Benteke was out injured. So will be interesting to see, but I assume Zaha's going to be up front. I think that's why he's priced as highly as he is. I also think Palace defenders are a sneaky pick this week. Facing Swansea, who have the league's worst home attack. No Wilfried Boney, who scored their last 2 league goals. That's not true, because didn't they score against Everton? Yeah, Leroy Fair scored. Mm-hmm. I think they actually had a second as well. But anyway, no, I think it was just Leroy Fair with the opener. And then they have no manager at the moment. In fact, their temporary manager is a current midfielder for them in Leon Britton. So actually, as a non-DFS thing, I'm just hoping that we see a player manager this weekend. I've always thought that was really fun. And he's better than a lot of the players they have in midfield. So I'm sure he's like, put me in, coach. Wait, I'm the coach. Put me in, me. That would just be a fun one to see. My dislike is just going to be all Swansea players, not to be reductive, but Palace are clearly trending up, Swansea clearly trending down. I really just want no part of them. I think Crystal Palace kind of do what they did last week against Leicester and pile it on, even without a striker. I'm going to say 2-0. Yeah, 2-0.
That's a good call. I like 2-0. Whispers around Crystal Palace is that Bakary Sacco is going to get the start.
Ooh, 2 goals and 2. Oh wow, yeah, I should have talked about him. Where is he price wise?
He's 4,700 in the midfield, so he could be a sneaky OOP guy.
Yeah,
he's probably one of the better plays of the week if he does start and he's playing, tip of the spear and with Zaha playing on the wing. I like Zaha this week as well. When we get to our teams, he's in it currently, but keep an eye out for Bakary Sacco. He's gonna be probably playing up top and probably be somebody you probably want to invest money in at 4,700. Swansea is rudderless ship. I would love to see Leon Britton get in there and do some things. He's the second best Leon I know, next to Leon Osman, or the guy from The Professional. So maybe he's the third best.
Or Ponce de Leon.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, Palace, I think they definitely get one early. Depending on how much vit and vigor that Swansea offers, they could just pile on again. I don't think they're going to go crazy and like score like five, but they could score 2 to 3. Palace.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think Crystal Palace win that one somewhat with ease. Um, on now to Newcastle versus West Ham. I know you talked about Marco the Sharko and other things we did earlier this week. I assume you're kind of leaning that way in DFS as well, even though he has that Q on him.
Absolutely, I'm not doubting that he's going to play. West Ham has a lot of injuries like surrounding the team. Coming off a 20-point game, I think he plays. He's got 13 shots in the last 3 games, which is pretty good. Regardless if they're on target, you still get points for it in DFS, so that still counts. Way to go, Marco. There's definitely no Lanzini in this game. Chicharito has cried his way out of West Ham, and he's probably not coming back. He'll be off in Leverkusen. So anybody who wants to play DFS Bundesliga, he'll be coming to your rosters very soon. But Arnautovic at 6,500 is probably going to be one of the more offensively minded players. Look for a sneaky tap for Mikel Antonio. He's up there too. He's in the low sixes, I believe. But
Five.
West Ham,
6'3".
6'3". So he's just a little bit below Arnautovic, but he's still going to be offensive. He'll probably get up top a little bit. But Newcastle just doesn't offer me anything. The one thing I don't like on this is the West Ham defense, and it's Arthur Masuaku. Look at his price compared to what other else West Ham is putting out on the pitch.
Yeah.
I kind of like Angelo Agbana a little bit better at 3,400 compared to what Masuaku is at 5,200. He's all the way up to 5,200. This is a price that's spurned from 2 to 3 weeks ago when he had the most dribbles done in the last 3 games by anybody in Premier League, and he's playing up top now. So OP guys make the world go round. Unfortunately, not at 5,200 for me. If you want to trade down a little bit, Cresswell could be a sneaky play. He's been not cross happy as he was in the beginning of the year, but he's still getting you 3 to 4 a game, and he's probably going to be stout on defense this week against a Newcastle team that just doesn't have anything going in the right direction offensively. West Ham take this game. I don't know if they keep it clean, so I'll give Newcastle 1 goal, but I think West Ham get at least 2.
Interesting. I'm going with the West Ham clean. I really like the trajectory they're on right now. I think it's 3 out of the last 5 they've kept,
3 out of 5,
and 2 in a row, if memory serves. So yeah, I'm actually weirdly on the West Ham train right now, and loved your Antonio shout. He will be addressed in a minute. We'll wrap up here with Burnley versus Tottenham. I'm actually really not a fan of this match. It's kind of like the Watford one we mentioned earlier. Just there's so many battling principles here. Like, none of the Tottenham players are particularly on form, right? So you're not really a fan of that. But Burnley's defense is going to be without Tarkowski, who's kind of been their lead man this year, so maybe Tottenham do score. But Burnley do have the best home defense in the league this season. But Lamela might be getting back in there, and obviously he's looked really good in his brief minutes. You could really argue either way for me. So to just avoid all of that, I'm just going to say Serge Aurier. Because he was rotated out last week for Trippier, who got absolutely schooled by Leroy Sané for basically all 90 minutes. Aurier probably going to come in, probably going to keep a clean sheet against Burnley's attack, which is bottom 10 thus far this season. I still think Gudmundsson gets his points, just because the nature of his crossing. He leads the league in crosses and accurate crosses over the last 5 weeks. Obviously, that gets you plenty of points regardless of whether or not they find the back of the net. Even if Burnley scored, I don't think they score more than 1. But with Aurier, I think he has a decent chance at a clean sheet and a decent chance to provide something going forward. I'm not saying he'll send a cross in that's so bad that it ends up in the back of the net, like he did a few weeks back. But I think he could get an assist in there as well. As I said, Lamela is a sneaky option if he starts. My dislikes are the big two, Kane and Eriksen. They are just too expensive for this slate considering how little they've done in recent weeks. They may turn it around this week. That is entirely within their ability and is entirely a possibility. But I'm not willing to pay these prices knowing that they might not. As you said, I think that money should all go City way. If I get beaten by Tottenham players this week, I'm willing to accept that. It's like a center at the 3-point line. Shoot the shot. Like, if you make it, well done. If you invest, what is it? I think Kane's in the 10s and Eriksen's in the 9s. No, Kane's 11. Eriksen's at 9-4. If you spend that money and you hit, well done on you. I just think there's a lot better values out there. They're obviously very talented players, can turn it around at any point. I mentioned to you earlier this week, Kane has only blanked in 3+ matches 5 times in his career, and 3 of those were in August. So statistically, you figure he's going to turn it around. But his statistics have been weird all season. The fact that his shot accuracy is so much lower than his career average, by the halfway point, you would have assumed that would have kind of normalized by now. But it still hasn't. So yeah, even though I like Kane and Eriksen as players, I'm obviously a Tottenham fan, and I hope they do well this weekend. Both listing around 10 plus, I'm just not about it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the prices of Kane and Eriksen. On a comparative basis, you can have Harry Kane and Christian Eriksen, or Kevin De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling for the difference of $200.
Yep.
It's not even close.
No.
And just on the basis of goal output, City are the team to definitely stack this week. Getting onto the Burnley defense, I'm worried about their defense. I know they've been the best defense at home. When you take away Tarkowski, now that Stephen Ward is out as well, you can just reinsert Loughton, and Ben Mee has been back. Yeah. You know, I worry about that because we've seen this as a pattern in with other teams. The Phil Jones effect, we'll call it, when teams just lose a vital piece and they just can't keep clean sheets.
Yeah, Jones, Musafi, Alderweireld, like this has been happening a lot.
Yeah, it happened. It's been doing it with a lot of teams, and you know, Mamadou Sakho's another one. There you go. Just throw it in there.
For Palace.
You know, so I mean, it's when a cohesive unit gets disrupted, it's tough to get back on clean sheet form. So I'd be careful of that. I think both teams probably get a goal, but I think Tottenham is the better. There's a lot of 2-1 games for me this week, and I'll probably just stick with that and probably lie to your face instead of be 2-1.
Yeah. I do think Tottenham win. Again, clean sheet might be difficult, although getting Davinson Sanchez back is a huge boost, because that means Dyer can go back into the midfield, which means Dembele or Winks instead of Dembele and Winks, which just don't really work as a double pivot. You need that kind of enforcer in midfield, and that should be Dyer again this week. All right, Rob. Well, now we're done flirting. What's your team of the week here?
We'll start up top for me. I invested heavily in the forwards. I went Kevin De Bruyne at 10,700, and I went Wilfried Zaha at 8,100. Both are phenomenal values. I know Kevin De Bruyne is the second highest priced player on the slate, and he's still a value for me. I think that he's gonna go. I think he's gonna go buck wild and buck nasty in this, and just make it the player haters ball against Bournemouth. Wilfried Zaha is just a dribbling machine, man on a mission. Wears cleats for a reason, because he can dribble. Through the midfield, Mark Arnautovic. I'm not worried about the queue. 6,500. West Ham is probably gonna be playing more up top because of everybody being out of the fray, Lanzini especially, which could hurt him because he is an excellent facilitator and a great playmaker through the middle. My other midfielders, kind of like that, go back to Watford. I was looking for a guy who's going to be different, and I went with Roberto Pereira at 3,500.
You know, I love him if he plays.
Me and Kevin do have a good love for him as a player. He's been playing pretty well for them, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But like me and Kevin said in the beginning of the show, because it was the first game we talked about, somebody for Watford really different is gonna do something in this game. On defense, I went Johnny Evans at 3,200 and Angelo Ogbonna at 3,400. I kept it cheap. I matched up my West Brom love with Ben Foster at 4,400, and my utility is Raheem Sterling at 9,900.
You know, you and I probably talk too much because there's going to be a lot of common ground here between our two teams. Up front, I have De Poitre and Sterling. I have the Sterling-De Bruyne combo, which you mentioned earlier, as forward midfield. I have slid Lamella there into my midfield as well. Not 1,000% sure he starts, but if he starts again, I think he'll have a good match. My defensive pairing, I mentioned Davinson Sanchez there. I have him in here. Kind of wanted to get Ori in there, but it just wasn't possible with Sterling and De Bruyne eating up so much of my kishish. Then have not paired defenders. I currently have Scott Dan and Ben Foster. I think your West Brom defender goalkeeper combo is an interesting one. I might also go down to Speroni, but I hate that you don't really 100% know who's starting for Palace every week in goal. But like I said, I think there's a very rudderless Swansea at the moment. And then my util is somebody that you kind of threw a throwaway line to that I really like this week, which is Antonio at 6,300. There's a non-zero chance that he is the striker this week for West Ham. And at 6,300 listed as a midfielder, I think that's just really cheap. He's somebody that I'm still willing to bet on the talent on, whereas with Redmond, I'm not. Like, I've bet on Redmond's talent so many times I've been burned, I'm just off it. Antonio, I still have some hope left. Rob, where do you think we'll land points-wise this week with so many teams on the slate?
I think City's going to run wild and put like 4 in the net. So, I mean, if you own 2 of those players, which you probably should, that's probably going to, and you own the right players, because this could be an Aguero game, it could be a De Bruyne game, it could be a Sterling game. Even Leroy Sané could be his game. It could be a David Silva game again if he plays. But if you hit on both 2 guys that get a goal and assist, or 2 goals and whatnot, it's probably it's going to easily approach 140. So, to infinity and beyond from there.
Yeah, I think we're definitely looking at 120 plus. I think there might be just enough players on this slate that it's going to mitigate it, just because people won't be able to get all of the scorers in their team. But yeah, I think it'll be somewhere between that 120 and 130 range. All right, Rob, we mentioned at the top of the show, unfortunately, this is our last VIP bet show, at least for a while. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to VIP Bet for putting us on. We've been doing this for a little over a year now. Very much enjoyed talking DFS with you guys at home. Obviously gave Rob and I another opportunity to have another outlet, kind of pursue a different style of Fantasy Premier League. But big thanks to all the folks behind the scenes at VIP Bet, Andre and Kirill and Lars and many more that have helped us throughout this journey. So thank you guys so much. And thank you so much to the people that watch these. We know our numbers were never particularly great, but considering how consistent they are, if they're at a low level, we assume that there are at least some kind of return viewership out there. So if you did stick with us, or even if somehow this is the first one you've seen, just wanted to thank you for watching us along this journey, and hopefully we'll be able to come back bigger and stronger in other ventures. Rob will obviously here in a second share his thoughts and where you can find him. But if you'd like to find us, I'm at Kevroff on Twitter. He's at FPL_MNOP. But Rob, any final thoughts? Any RIPs in peace?
No, I mean, it's been fun. I want big shout out to VIP Bet. They've backed us for a year, and it's been fun. It was a different format than we were used to, and we kind of jumped in it with 2 feet. And thank you for the opportunity. Everybody behind the scenes, awesome. You've been great. I'm glad that we could bring quality content. I'm just unfortunate that nobody really watched it. And that's the determining factor. Listen, we didn't. It's not because we didn't try.
Yeah.
But from there, you can always find me and Kevin on Twitter, lurking around everywhere. We do write for other sites. We have multiple podcasts everywhere else. You can find me on Twitter, FPL_MNOP. And like Kevin just said, he's at Kevrov. Big shout to VIP Bet. I'm sure Kevin's going to take it again because he likes to speak at the end.
He sure does. Yeah, if you want to find all of Rob's stuff, you can go to razball.com. You can find him there talking both baseball and the Premier League stuff. So if you're interested in either of those, if you're playing DFS, you probably have some interest in the other DFS sports. One of the best reliever writers in the game out there is that Sir Rob Langevin. As he said, I'm Kevin DeVries at Kevroff on Twitter. I write for goal.com, so be sure to go check that out. We've already mentioned our Twitters like 98 times. We also host a podcast about the official FPL game through the Premier League. You can find that at EPL Roundtable on Twitter. You can also find it by searching EPL Roundtable in iTunes or whatever podcast client you use, except I think SoundCloud. But we're around. There's still going to be plenty of content from us. Unfortunately, it won't be on this channel. But we do hope you keep watching things that are on this channel. But if you're looking for our Fantasy Premier League stuff, be sure to follow us at all those things we just mentioned. So one last time, thank you, Rob, so much for joining me. Thanks to VIP for putting us on. Best of luck to you at home, and we won't catch you next time.